Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word this morning. Glad you could join me for our time together. We have reached Friday of this week, and it's a beautiful Friday morning. And so we have made it a whole week in our restarting, if you will, of our daily word. And so I'm grateful this week that you have chosen to jump back on with me, if you have, and to share in these conversations and hopefully we together live better lives and make a difference in the world around us. And so you know that I'm grateful that you carve out time to be with me whenever that might be. As you know, the good news about this particular medium is that you can watch anytime. And it's good news that is always there. Or you can rewatch if you want to. So thanks for joining me for this morning. So last night, I told you I was going to go sing at the Gideon banquet. I'm not sure I did a very good job. Well, I know I didn't do a very good job. It's probably not a good idea to debut a very new song that you've never sang in public. And really, I haven't heard myself sing it over a sound system, only just to myself. So I'm not sure that was the best idea I've ever had. But, sometimes you just got to jump out there and take a leap of faith. I'll sing it in church in a couple of weeks and see how it goes. So I've chosen for this morning, I think, an appropriate way to end our week. Back in the book of James, as we talked about on Sunday, back in the book of James, and back in this conversation about James really telling us about how to live our lives. And so he says this, James 2:26. For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. And so you remember Sunday morning, if you were in worship or watched online, actually you didn't get it online because the sound went out, but we talked about good news, bad news, good news. And, it goes kind of like this. Here's the good news. Christ is a resurrected Christ. The bad news is because of the resurrection, we have to live differently. The good news is that the resurrected Christ, as I said on Sunday, has taken up residence with us. Good news, bad news, good news. It's kind of one of those things, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's one of the things that drives me crazy. When people type it in just the letters, if you know, you know, IYK, if you know, YK. That kind of drives me crazy. I'm not sure I always know what that means. And sometimes I always say, I don't know if I know what I'm supposed to know. But it kind of like James says to us, look, if you've gotten a hint, a sliver, a bit of this information, if it's taken home with you, if it's come to roost in you, if it repeats in you, then you have to do something about it. The bad news. And the good news is you've been given everything you need. Now, for James, for us in this text, as we live our lives together, here's the thing. We, like in our culture, and we had this conversation last night around the dinner table at the Gideon banquet. We live in this culture where we're so influenced, or we think we are, or we think we're influencers on social media, or by giving our opinion no matter what it is. And we think our lives, and sometimes they are just circled around those things. And we fall into that trap. But James gives us an interesting, well, rather disheartening way to look at this. He doesn't call our lackadaisical faith hypocritical or bad, because let's be honest, our faith can be lackadaisical. If we just make it personal about us at church, sometimes I wonder about When I see the fish table, for example, at the end of the narthex, and there's very little on it, and we don't take the time, you and I, to buy one box of cereal or one thing of crackers when we're at the store, just one more, and bring it together and bring it to church and fill up the table. I think sometimes we're lackadaisical. We just don't follow through like we should, and our eyes are turned by all kinds of things. But James doesn't say that our lackadaisical faith is hypocritical or bad. James says that our faith, our lackadaisical faith without works, is dead. Wow. It's a pretty stark way to look at it. Pretty hard. We know that through Jesus, death doesn't have the last word, of course. Here's the challenge for us, I think. And we've talked about it a lot this week. Good news, bad news, good news. If we feel like our faith is faltering, if we feel lackadaisical, if we're just not sure, if we don't like the good news, bad news, if you know kind of thing, well, I think the challenge for us is to do something to resurrect our faith. It might not change the world. And granted, one box of crackers, one thing of cereal, one jar of peanut butter, the three most important things that we do on a regular basis at church, it might not change the world, but it might change you. And if we're changed, and if our faith becomes a little less lackadaisical, or if James says, if our faith then becomes alive because it was dead, then the world isn't changed, but we are. And if we're changed, then the world's changed. Are we good with ourselves? Are we good with our neighbors? Are we good with the rest of the world that doesn't have the privileges that we do? Are we good with the earth and all that surrounds it? I think those are the ultimate questions for us. On Sunday, we're going to talk about what it means to follow Jesus and the difficulties of that. Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do you say that I am? Who do people say that I am?" And they give this interesting answer, but Jesus puts a price tag on the following of him. And you can't do it with lackadaisical effort. So, we look deep in ourselves, as I do, as I look in the mirror some of the time, and realize that I too need to be better. So, that's our daily word for today, this Friday morning. Hope it's a good word for you as it is for me as we end our week together. Look forward to seeing you in worship on Sunday morning as we continue our journey together. Have a great weekend. Know of God's love that surrounds you, and know of my love for you.